The sun was beginning to set as I looked down the mountain. One last run before packing up and heading home. That was the plan, at least. I started snowboarding at an early age. My father would build snow mounds in our backyard during the winter months, and I'd take my plastic little board down them again and again. I had a blast, and my mother was just happy to have the driveway shoveled. Over the years, I eventually grew out of my plastic snowboard, and the snowy mounds just weren't cutting it anymore. Luckily, I happened to live right next to two mountains. The mountain that resided to the south had a lavish ski resort. Once I was old enough, I'd spend days going up to that mountain. I spent so much time up there, in fact, that I ended up getting a part-time job, organizing and renting out snowboards and skis. The job didn't pay all that much, but I did get discounted access to the resort, so it was a pretty good deal. After school, I'd load up my truck, head over to the mountain, get maybe 1 or 2 runs in on the short lift, then spend the rest of the day taking orders and teaching people how to buckle themselves into their boards. Then, once my shift ended, I'd take one of the last few trams up to the top of the mountain and make a final run down. I'd pack up my stuff and head home for the night, only to repeat everything the following day. Before I got my job at the resort, I wasn't a very popular guy. I mostly just kept to myself and would count the seconds until school ended. But once word got out that I worked at the resort, people suddenly wanted to become my friend. They figured I could get them discounts at the resort, and it was true. I could. While the friendships were all extremely superficial, I still enjoyed people talking to me. Hell, I even met my best friend that way. My first impression of Lucy wasn't a particularly good one. She sauntered over with her group of friends and basically demanded that I give her and her friends a discount. Even though I didn't care for her tone, I still obliged. It happened to be on one of my days off, and we all met up on the mountain. After all the passes were purchased, we all went up to the lift. 2 runs later, and her entire group retired to the lodge. Lucy and I just kept going back up to the top and back down. I had an absolute blast, and I was surprised that Lucy could actually snowboard. Most people I've given discounts to could hardly stand on a board or skis, let alone go down a mountain. Her and I chatted for a bit, and she told me that she normally snowboards down the mountain to the north, because it's free. Lucy and I have been good friends ever since. A year or so passed, and Lucy asked me if I wanted to go with her up to the northern mountain. I thought about it for a moment. I had never gone backcountry snowboarding before, but I jumped at the opportunity. We met up and she drove us to the mountain. She told me a lot of people purchase vacation homes on that mountain, which would make driving up it fairly easy. When we couldn't actually drive any further, we parked and got out. The hike up the rest of the mountain was murder on my legs, but I was still having a great time. We made it about halfway up to the top, skirted around the mountain for a bit, then boarded down. The feeling of fresh snow in your face and the thrill of speeding down an untamed mountain was exhilarating. The only thing that sucked was we had to walk back over to a nearby trail, hike back up to where we started, and do it again. The sun was starting to set, and Lucy told me we'd probably only get 1 more run in before we'd have to leave. I nodded to her and she went first. I watched her for a bit as she zigzagged down the mountain before making my run. When I first let off, something didn't feel right. The snow beneath my feet began to shift. Realizing what was happening, I turned and tried to get out of its way. As I made my way around the mountain, my board was taken out from under me, and I was completely engulfed in snow. I had read about avalanches before, and I tried to recall what to do in this situation. Panic was overwhelming me as I swiped at the snow piling over my head. Then, it stopped. During my struggle, I had managed to create a small pocket around my body, but it was still very difficult to move. I tried to scream, but through my snow mask and the snow, my voice fell short. I figured that Lucy had to have seen the avalanche and was currently looking for me. Minutes ticked by and I was unsure of what to do. I was worried that if I tried to claw my way out, that the snow would come crashing down around me and crush me. I waited for a few more minutes, trying to think of something. Then, something started happening. I heard a slight rumbling. Then the snow around my legs dropped out from underneath me. I clawed at the snow in front of my face as much as I could, but it was no use. I fell. When I finally came to, my leg was throbbing with pain. I opened my eyes and realized I was no longer buried by the avalanche, but was now somewhere inside the mountain. The hole I had fallen through let enough unsettled snow in to create a natural skylight above. I looked up and saw that the stars were already out. I unhooked my board from my feet and struggled to stand. My leg was sore but unbroken, and I thanked God for that. I rifled my phone out of my pocket and looked at it. I had no service, even with standing directly under the hole above me. I turned on my phone's flashlight and shined it around me. What I saw made me freeze in place. Bones. There were bones of animals all scattered around me. I scanned around with the light. There must have been hundreds of bones in here. It was then that I realized that those bones must have come from somewhere. Not far from where I fell, I saw what looked to be a tunnel of some kind. I picked up my snowboard and walked over to it. Once I was there, I heard something behind me. A deep growl. I paused, thinking it might be a bear or something. I slowly turned back, shining my flashlight back the way I came. Standing there, underneath the hole I had fallen through, was something. It was tall and was standing on its hind legs. It had white hair all over its body. Its eyes were white and empty. Its arms hung to the ground, long knuckles resting in the snow. Its head looked like a disfigured wolf of some kind, flesh missing in places, and a bluish tint to its skin. Its head was tilted up to the hole I had fallen through, and was sniffing the air. I took a step back and felt something crack beneath my feet. I looked down and saw the ghostly remnants of a human skull looking back at me. The crack echoed, and I heard the creature in front of me roar loudly. I freaked out and ran down the dark tunnel, trying my best to avoid the jagged rocks all around me. As I squirmed through the tight spaces, my leg was beginning to ache more and more. Just as I was rounding a tight corner, I saw moonlight. I dashed towards the exit, and I was just about to be out of this messed up place when I felt something pull on me, sending me flying to the snow. The creature had caught up. It lumbered over me like a giant. It sniffed at the air above my head. Panicking, I looked over and saw my snowboard lying on the ground next to me. I grabbed it and swung as hard as I could at the thing's face. I felt the board connect, and I scrambled to my feet, sprinting out of there. As I ran, I kept looking behind me, expecting to see the creature chasing after. It was then that I ran into something and was knocked to the ground. Thinking I was done for, I looked up and saw a man standing in front of me. A moment later, he called into a radio saying that he found me. It wasn't long after that I was surrounded by a bunch of police officers, search and rescue, and Lucy. She told me once she saw the avalanche, she called the police immediately. She then asked me how I ended up on the other side of the mountain, and I told her I fell into a cave of some kind. I wanted to tell her what I saw in that cave, but all I could manage to say was, "Don't snowboard on this mountain anymore." She gave me a confused look, but shrugged and told me she was glad I was just all right. The police took me to the hospital and called my parents. I spent the last few days recovering and trying to wrap my head around what I had experienced. Getting buried alive in an avalanche is terrifying, but almost being eaten alive by a monster is definitely much, much worse.